Do you want to live more sustainably but aren't sure where to start or how it fits in with your everyday living? The ReNewy Living Podcast simplifies sustainability so you can feel confident to take small, meaningful actions that fit into your lifestyle. Based on the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi people in Newcastle, Australia, you'll learn how to live lighter on our planet through practical ideas, stories from like-minded people, and examples of businesses doing great things. With an open heart and mind, join me, Marty Lee, as we explore how to consume less, build stronger community connections, and thrive in your neighbourhood, wherever you call home. Welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. Hello, I'm Marty Lee, and welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. While most shopping centres are filled with cloned chain stores, it's easy to forget that independent grocery shops are out there doing things differently, helping us live more sustainably, eat more mindfully, and feel more connected. In this episode, we sit down with Brent Fairns, owner of Organic Feast in Maitland. More than just a shop, Organic Feast is a vibrant local place that shows what's possible when community and sustainability come together. From certified organic produce to in-house cafe meals, this is a business made with intention. It's a colourful antidote to the fast, bland world of modern retail. G'day, Brent. Thank you so much for having me in your shop, cafe and studio.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for visiting.
It's a really lovely place to be, particularly the cafe at this time in the morning. We're recording early in the morning and it's very vibrant out there. What inspired you to start the shop to start with?
Somewhere through the mid-90s, I had discovered our local organic food store, a tiny little shop in central Maitland. I started doing a little bit of shopping there and, I just discovered more about what organic food was about, if you like, and the problems with conventional agriculture. Yeah, I was 26 and I asked Paul, the owner of the store, if he'd like to sell it, and he was more than happy to pass it on because you could imagine interest, awareness, demand for organic food was really quite small, particularly in a little town like Maitland, and he had enough. And I was very happy to buy it. I blink now, and I am in my 50s and my 60s. I've done something that I believe has contributed positively to the community. Like most things I do, I tend to operate from my gut and from my heart. And if you look at it economically, and with my experience, I had quite a number of people tell me, "You're a lunatic."
Don't you love that? The support?
Yeah, well, I wasn't offended by it. I had that desire within me to do something that meant something to me.
You've bought the business from the previous owner and you've made a name change. But then what made a difference for you for a business to keep going? If it was hard times and difficult, what did you do differently?
Of late, I've been seeing some posts through Twitter or X of Jim from Jim's Mowing.
Which is a national franchise business.
I've never used his services. I don't really know anything about him other than, what I've learnt of late. For him, it's all pretty simple. I can relate to him. He started with no money. I started with no money. He had no business experience, just drive and determination and treating people like people and honesty and integrity and being held accountable for your mistakes and learning from your mistakes. They're pretty simple ideas, I guess. Deep within that, you also need not the desire, but to know that there's something bigger than what you're working towards that can keep you going through the tough times. Organic food and food grown properly needs to become more mainstream, I guess, and more easily accessed. So those sorts of things help you push through, I guess. I still got to pinch myself, walk into the store, particularly in the last year or two, and to see how busy we are and how well supported we are and how well loved we are. Like, we've pushed through all those tough times, and I'm just so grateful, I guess, that the community and our customers have given me the opportunity to create this.
It would be a really nice feeling to come into work every day and to see a real thriving business. I mean, I've visited your cafe quite a number of times. I don't live in the area, but when I come up to the area, this is the place that I come to, because I know that the team that you have know what they're talking about. Every time I come, the shop component is always so busy and the cafe part is always so busy. And even this morning, I had the most delicious orange and almond gluten-free cake. It was gone in a jiffy because it was so delicious.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, look, it does. It brings me so much joy. Almost everything we use in the cafe is organic, so there really aren't any corners cut. We've just sort of started in the last couple of years. It's probably been a 5-year project. The bakery component of the cafe, we're using grass-fed butter. We're not using like a synthetic sheet with, a list of ingredients as long as your arm. So, what we're trying to be on some level is like food, not just food, but we've been in a race to the bottom for decades in terms of the quality of pretty much anything and everything, whether it's clothing, home appliances, food and agriculture, all of those things, to do it for half the price and produce twice the volume. And it's come at the cost of the health and well-being of society and individuals and the planet. And so to be making things properly with real ingredients so that when you come here and you eat, you're genuinely being nourished, it's honestly like it's few and far between. I don't get around to too many places. I'm a bit of a hermit these days.
I do. I can tell you. And this is what I like about coming to your cafe is that cake that I had today, I know it's made on the premises here. It tastes fresh. It tastes like it's got whole ingredients in it, and it tastes different to what I would have at other cafes. And I think that is one of those key values and differences that you've created in this place. And more than that, when you were talking about your bakery section, before we started recording, you took me on a tour of the kitchen and the place. And I got so excited because it was the absolute smell of fresh bread coming straight out of the oven right in front of my eyes. Like, how many places do you go to really that have freshly made sourdough bread that the flour has been milled on site?
Yeah, well, not only is that bread fresh out of the oven, but the flour for that bread was milled, a couple of days prior, and that's just so important because, like, the stone mill process of making flour is a slow, cool method, and you can't separate all the germ oils, etc., from the flour like you can with a steel mill. Most flour these days is steel milled because it's faster and cheaper, and you can separate more of the components of the grain from the flour. And you can produce a flour that'll live on a shelf for years.
I love how you've just said that because I did not know the difference between a steel milled flour and a stone. So
well, it's critical because in a stone milled flour, the germ oils are still present within the flour. They can't be separated out. And so in time, those wheat germ oils will go rancid. And so stone milled flour doesn't have a long shelf life. It's no good on the supermarket shelves. Once upon a time, stone mills like mine were present in all communities because of that very reason, that it needed to be fresh to be at its best. And then with everything, like cheaper, faster, and then people, I guess, didn't know better. So they'd follow the price and they go for the cheaper goods. But it's one of those things that we're learning in time is that, cheaper is not always better, and you're better off investing in higher quality, more nutritionally dense foods. So the stone milling process is really important. And the freshness of that flour with the baking is really important as well. The bread you saw coming out was made exclusively from biodynamic wheat grain, an older variety of wheat grown by the Unger family at Tamingli, sort of just about an hour south of Dubbo. You hit Peak Hill and then you go west. And you cross the Bogan River, which I love. I always stop at the Bogan River and hop out and, take a few deep breaths of the mallee scrub out there. And I love that we've got a river called Bogan River.
Yeah, it is great, isn't it?
Yeah. And
very Australian.
Yeah, I travel out to that farm every 6 or 8 weeks and pick up their biodynamic wheat, and we mill it fresh, and then we ferment traditionally with our sourdoughs. So it's the European method. The long, slow way of doing things, which in a modern, fast world is, again, unfortunately rare because time and money, have meant that we've found cheaper, faster ways to do sourdough. And, most commercial sourdough breads, I would suggest these days, they use a dehydrated, powdered form of a sourdough yeast culture, and they'll add that to the dough and do a ferment in 2 or 3 hours. Our ferments take 16 to 24 hours, so it's a long, slow process. And what that offers is a denaturing of the gluten. So that long, slow process allows all the various enzymes and the like to break down that long protein chain that is gluten, which looks like chewing gum in your gut when it's in that form. The long, slow ferment process breaks it into small, digestible chains. So it's easier on the gut, far more easily digested, sits nicely. And again, every day I have someone in who says, I can only eat your bread. I haven't eaten bread for years.
I'm not celiac. I am gluten intolerant, though. I have symptoms that don't sit right with me when I eat gluten. And I've been like that for 10 years or so. And it's only from January this year in 2025 that someone said to me, you'd be fine eating traditional sourdough. And I feel like it's the best thing ever since sliced bread. But I absolutely love traditional sourdough. And you're right, it does not upset my stomach. And it's so delicious. And it's so filling as well compared to commercial bread. Like you were saying about commercial sourdough, so that you can buy in the supermarket will often have baker's yeast in it and not be the most traditional process. So having your bread is super. And that's a great explanation of why traditional sourdough is so good for your gut system.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, bread's certainly not what it used to be.
I want to take us back on the journey of bread making. So I've seen the bread come out of the oven. You've talked about that you actually purchased the flour from a local producer in New South Wales. And in your shop, in the middle of your shop, so just imagine like a fishbowl of a glass building, you've made this special part in the middle of your shop that has the mill that you've imported. Part of it is imported from Germany.
Yeah, from Austria.
Austria, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, well, certainly both components. We have the mill and the sifter made by the same family in Austria. We've been making mills for generations. A good friend of mine, Simon, his former crew of Demeter Bakery in Glebe imported that mill in the 80s. And those guys were obviously well ahead of the curve, doing an organic biodynamic bakery in the 80s. And, that mill's been through a few hands and found its way back to Simon and then probably well known to many people who've been to Honeysuckle Market and the Newcastle Farmers Market over decades. He was looking to downsize as he's sort of moving through the years and offered that mill to me. And like I alluded to earlier, I tend to make decisions based on gut rather than economics. And it felt like the right thing to do. So we put it in the store, and then Sue, our manager at the time, was like, why don't we put it in the middle of the store? Because I'd had visions of it being sort of, in the warehouse out the back. She suggested that. And I thought, well, that's a very good idea. So let's give that a crack. And we built that special room, which is double glazed and insulated, to keep it quiet. And you can watch the process of us milling the flour and then grading out the flour, sifting out some of the bran and the germ to make our white flour, which is not particularly white. It's still mostly bran and germ through to the whole flours. Anything we do separate out is revered. We've got some goat farmers, and the goats love it. We've got some cow farmers who, when they feed that meal to their animals, it brings a calmness to them, is their observation. So it's wonderful that there's no waste in the process as well. We're utilising everything. I've always sort of said that animals and children have this innate sense to know when something's particularly good for them. And you see that, with fruit and veggies. I don't know how many times over the years I've been told, but, the late mother might have been in and bought some apples for their child, and little Johnny's ripped through them in a day or two. And I think because it has flavour and it has nutritional value. And they can't really put it into words why they're eating it, other than it just tastes and feel good. And it's a wonderful thing to see.
Organic produce is really important to you in this shop. Why did you choose organic, and what does it really mean to you?
When you say organic, we've always focused on certified organic. I'm a big believer in the certification system. I think it's essential. It's essential for a place like mine. Anyway, we're also a certified organic store, so that means that we're audited as well. We aren't the total solution. There are farmers around who aren't certified who are practicing a lot of these principles, and I think it's great. And as a consumer, you can go and ask those farmers questions, and you can see and touch and feel and get a sense of whether they're doing the right thing or not. And it's a little bit different for us as a store where, we might be dealing with an organic wholesaler who themselves have to be certified, which means they're audited and there's a paper trail, and that they're buying from certified organic farmers. So for me, I guess as a store, that chain of certification from paddock to plate is really, really critical. Undoubtedly, we now live in like a supermarket season where everything's available all year round. And I think there's benefit to be had from eating far more seasonally. And if you can't get something, you just do without.
Until it comes back into season, and then people can appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you have something all the time, exactly, you do lose appreciation of it. I think it's a part of the joy of life. Cherry season, it's just such an exciting time, or stone fruit season, or any of those sorts of things. You've just got them for a brief window. For us, apricots, we might get apricots for 6 weeks a year.
And that really goes to show the longevity or the lifespan of something like that. Even figs. Figs are another thing where there's a really short lifespan seasonal lifespan on figs.
Yeah. And they're just little moments of joy.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying before about your supply chain, I think it's really interesting to hear that as a family-owned business and certified organic business, your relationships with your suppliers are a lot stronger. You know who your suppliers are and you have conversations with your suppliers. One of your suppliers is a Hunter Valley olive oil garlic producer, Patrice Newell. Tell us about that relationship and connection. What is the value of having a good relationship with your suppliers and producers?
A business like mine, we might have 400 suppliers. A traditional supermarket, an IGA, for example, might deal out of half a dozen, I don't know. So logistically, it's a big deal to do what we do. Look, it's critical. To be ecologically sustainable, you need to be economically sustainable. And really, so in my business, I'm a price taker. The growers come to me and they say, this is what I need to charge. And we go from there, because if they can't produce it and be viable, number one, I'll go a bit out of business. That's the first possibility, and then I won't have access to that produce. Number two is they've got to find some way to either cut corners or double production, put more pressure on their land or on themselves to be viable. I mean, the greatest example with that most people would be aware of would be milk, the way that the supermarkets drive prices down, and those guys are barely viable. Dairy farmers are going broke left, right and centre. Really, I think farming is almost modern-day slavery. They don't get anywhere near what they deserve. I am mindful of that, and it's always a tricky balance between paying what they need to receive to be a viable enterprise, and then us to be able to sell them and have it affordable for people. It's just a constant sort of juggling of, okay, what can we do? Where do we need to be? What are people prepared to pay, for example?
Yeah, so it is, because it's all about that fair pay for producers, fair pay for you as a shop as well. But I suppose it's also about for the customers as well to be able to hear those stories and to know that strong connection that you have probably weighs into that fact of why they value that particular product as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you alluded to it in your intro in terms of like the beigeness of most experiences now in terms of getting what you need in life. And fundamentally, I think we all crave a belonging to something and to people and to place and all of those things. And so I think that's a lot of what brings people back here, those connections through us. And there's a lot of trust placed in us to be doing the right thing.
Another huge value.
Absolutely. And I think the reason that we're still here 28 years on and as thriving is because we have not betrayed that trust. What we say we're selling is what we're selling. And people know that. The staff are here. Many of them have been here for a long time. And, some who are no longer here, we're here for a long time. They know what we're doing and buy into what we're doing and believe in what we're doing. It brings something intangible to your life, I guess, that has meaning and is important. And I think we all kind of crave that. It's nice to be able to offer those things. Like you mentioned, Patrice Newell's olive oil. We've stocked her stuff over a long period of time, but in this instance, in this year, we'll be taking a significant portion of her crop. As she's got various other challenges and directions and things in her life, so we can help by taking a larger proportion. Makes things easier for her, and it's wonderful for us because we'll be able to buy a year's worth of olive oil and keep that for our customers over time as well. We've just been up to Comboyne on the weekend to an organic kiwi farmer up there who has had a bumper crop this year, but he's also had some challenges. He fell off his, what do you call it? Those things that lift you in.
The cherry picker, or
cherry
they call
picker.
it something, the scissor picker or something,
Yeah.
Scissor lift?
Yeah, went over while he was fully extended and he did a lot of damage to himself. He's thankfully okay, but he's been behind, and so got another 400 kilo of kiwi fruit, which had been on the vine longer than he would have liked, and so it's ripe. 400 kilos of kiwi fruit arrived last night. That's a lot of kiwi.
That is a lot of kiwi fruit. I can imagine lots of pavlovas need to be made with the kiwi fruit as well.
Yeah, we need it to be Christmas, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm sure people eat pavlova in winter.
Well, I can eat pavlova at any time of the year as long as I've got good eggs to go with that and a lovely dollop of cream. Do you use kiwi fruit for making any of your kombuchas or other
juices?
Juices?
No, we don't. It'll go into our fruit salad. It might be used to garnish a few cakes here and there as well. They're deliciously sweet. They're amazing. We do taste tests, and that's all you need to do. Once people try them, they go, oh, that's what a kiwi fruit's supposed to taste like. So we have no trouble moving them.
I like how you've got a lot of creativity comes with that as well, with the purchasing of the lots of kiwi fruit or other surplus items as well. You're trying to look at different ways that item can be used to reduce food waste on so many different levels.
Yeah, well, we don't like to waste anything. I mean, that's the beauty of this place in having a couple of options in utilising that kind of thing. You know, we might have some apples with spots, so we'll put them through our cold press juicer. So we make certified organic cold press juice. You know, it might not present well enough for sale in the store, so we can utilise those things in the cafe. Anything that we can't sell, there's usually waste out the back of the store, which gets collected for people's chooks, you know, and anything that's edible, of course, there's Oz Harvest, because it's a valuable resource. And when you pay a lot more for your food, you respect it a lot more. By nature, certified organic produce tends to be more expensive. And I have no trouble with that. Quite happy to pay more for people who are doing the right thing, being true stewards of their land. Respecting their land and the water and not using all those harmful pesticides and the like. It's worth more money. Really, we've kind of got it all wrong where we say that organic food's expensive, but what's really actually happened is the industrialisation of food has meant that it's become really cheap, which makes things produced properly look relatively expensive, whereas really it's sort of been the other way around, you know, like whether it's 100,000 chickens in a shed or pigs or mushrooms, they can be grown extremely intensively when you're utilising chemicals to kill any of the other molds or fungi that might pop up in a mushroom patch. And part of that has also come around because of the centralisation in the food market. You know, Australia is quite unique in that until Aldi came along, I suppose, you know, Woolies and Coles had 95% of the food market. It might be a bit less than that now, but you're now talking three major players. And so places like mine, where there are very few organic food stores, but even conventional produce stores are closing.
Yeah, that are not connected to a supermarket per se.
Yeah.
That are trying to be an independent grocer, even if they're not organic. Yeah, it's a real shame.
So there's less diversification in the market. And when there's less diversification, like people like your Patrices or any of these small producers don't really have a marketplace. There are farmers markets, more of them popping up around, and I think they're a critical part of the solution. The slow food market in Central Maitland is a wonderful market, which is completely driven by volunteers of the slow food movement. You know, it's giving an opportunity in a marketplace for smaller local producers. But again, it's one of those things, you know, like these guys are probably doing 80, 100 hours on the farm, and then they're going to find a day off the farm to go and sell their wares. And that's a substantial investment of time and energy. And so I think places like ours are critical to keeping that flow from paddock to plate.
Absolutely essential. And I can hear and see that you have so much hope that your store is a provision for that diversification.
I have more hope than pessimism. That said, I do worry for the future. You know, there is a war on farming nationally and globally. You know, agriculture is a substantial contributor to our energy consumption in the world. You know, they say it's around a third or thereabouts in terms of CO2 emissions. You know, there's a problem to be addressed. I don't necessarily agree with some of the solutions that have been put forward. In the Netherlands, for example, where the government there was forcing a lot of farms to shut to meet their CO2 obligations, and rather than actually trying to re-educate their farmers into more sustainable ways of farming, sort of looking to shut them down instead, which is a problem.
It is a problem. It feels like it's more of a knee-jerk reaction rather than looking at the supportive action that needs to happen behind the scenes. From purchasing the shop and wanting to make that grow, how did you get to the point where you are now, where you've got the shop and the cafe and the wellness centre?
Luck on many levels. Again, instinctively, I kind of knew that, you know, if you follow nature, that the most resilient ecosystems are diverse and biodiversity. And so, in essence, I always had that in mind, but I was just fortunate in terms of this space, like this building that we're in. You know, my luck with somebody else's poor luck, given that this was a hardware store once upon a time, and my favourite hardware store. I used to love coming here.
So it has a lot of meaning to you, even though it's a different use.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people. It was a really good hardware store. Anyway, you can imagine large competition came to town. These guys, they built this building for themselves. The Compton family used to do a lot of civil works for governments and the like, and they built this for themselves. When they closed, somebody had suggested to me that it might be a good location for me to move to. So I started to make those investigations and that how I might, acquire it, given that I have no money.
All gut, all instinct and heart.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I'm very grateful to my parents who put their house on the line. Somehow, we managed to get the building.
So with the building, you saw the building and then you thought that the shop component would be perfect for it. But is that when you also started planning for the commercial kitchen and the cafe and the wellness centre at the same time when you were looking at the zoning
right at the beginning,
requirements?
absolutely. Yeah, we considered all of those things because somebody said to me way back at the time, because I remember the day I got the keys to this place and I walked in for the first time and I had a look at the enormity of what was ahead and the lack of budget. I burst into tears. I cried, and I contacted a real estate friend and said, "How do I get out of this? I've signed. I can't do it." And he told me, "There's no way out of it for you without pain, so you may as well keep going." And so we pushed through. And someone who said, "Yeah, your dreams come a size too big, so you can grow into them." That did actually help. We set up the store, and then built the space for the cafe, and I sublet that out because I didn't have the expertise. I still don't have the expertise to run a cafe. And we'd kept this section blocked off for maybe doing a health centre in time. It's just been one of those things over as it's evolved. We've had a couple of people lease the cafe. I'm proud to say that we were the starting place for Momo Whole Foods in
Wonderful.
who are in Newey now.
Yeah.
Linda and Tenzin, and they did a magnificent job. But then it came time for them to go and for it to all become sort of run as one. And so I bought them out 7 or 8, 9 years ago. We've just sort of slowly been developing and expanding the kitchen. There used to be offices over there and all sorts of other things. And just this year we've expanded the kitchen a little bit further to allow the bakery to grow and evolve as well. So very organic, which is why it's taken 28 years because and it's probably the right way, because if I had all that money and just did this 28 years ago, it probably would have went bust 27 years ago. And just needed to take time and to grow. And I guess that's the beauty as well. Like I've got people who have shopped with me from day one, like for the 28 years. And with Paul prior to that. So people going back 35 years have been a part of this place and they have a sense of ownership, which I love, because they'll tell me, you can't do that.
It's customer commitment though. And I think that's something to be very proud of as a small business or medium-sized business. When you were giving me the tour this morning, we looked at your water room. I don't know if that's what you call it, but I'll call it the water room. And it's because not only do you sell homemade sourdough, you have the shop, the cafe, but you also sell water. Now, for some people, that seems like a really odd concept, especially if they have tap water available to them at all times. But one of the customers was just getting the water at the moment. She said she's been buying that water from you since you've started that water room. Talk to us about why you have that there and the importance of this particular water.
Okay. Well, water is life. We don't necessarily respect water in the way we treat it and handle it. Look, the water room is kind of like the result of everything I've ever kind of learnt about water. Clean water, I guess, has, it has changed the health of society, access to clean water. But also in the same breath, people don't want to drink chlorinated water. Some people don't want to drink fluoridated water. Our water storage systems are great in terms of keeping, the taps flowing, but you've got pesticide runoff. Grahamstown, you've got an airport nearby, planes flying over, highway along the side of it. There is many contamination possibilities with our water storage systems. So pure clean water is hard to come by. Well, I guess the aim of that room was to not just provide clean water where we've removed all those things. There's no PFAS. We've had it tested for that. There's a sort of like a terminology of hungry water, when it's stripped of all its life and minerals, that when you drink it, it will take from you rather than give to you. So we remineralise the water. And then there's some more esoteric elements like Mizuru Emoto, who is famous for his work in photographing the crystalline structure of water after playing various types of music from classical through to, death metal or projecting emotions, love, joy, gratitude, those sorts of things at water, or hate and anger. And all of those things carry an intent and an energy and a vibration and a frequency. So, water is, in a sense, is a reflection of that information, or carry that information. So we put it through a vortex, we put it through a grander water system as well. We also play Barry Goldstein's Heart Codes music, which is all specific frequencies of love and positive intention, which might all sound very esoteric, and I have no way of validating scientifically, but to me, they all bring something positive to the water.
In terms of taste, when I drink the water, it feels very soft in my mouth. It's got sort of a nice palate. I would never normally describe water as like a palate, but I really like the taste of it. It tastes very different to tap water. Thanks, Brent, for your really knowledgeable conversation today. If you have one tip to give listeners about how they can support a family-run business in their area, what would that be?
You could say just do it. Yeah, there are lots of opportunities these days, to do such a thing, even though I've seen a lot of places like mine go by the wayside. There are still opportunities out there, in various areas around the nation. And if it's not a store, then, there are more markets. What I would love to see is the regionalisation of food again, as opposed to the centralisation of food. We've become a reflection of our area. And people say to me, well, why don't you franchise or do other stores? But then I'd be another store in someone else's area, and I can't live in more than one place. It needs to be somebody else's thing. I think it's important to support, your local, and give them an opportunity to reflect local. So, I don't know if that's one tip, but
I think that's really great, because it's the regionalism versus the centralisation, and how important that is, and how important it is to support that one individual shop who's doing amazing things in your community.
Hopefully, places like this are part of the solution, just part of the solution. Slow food market, other things like that are all just parts of the solution to beigeness.
Thanks so much for your time, Brent.
That's all right. Thank you, Marty. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the ReNewy Living Podcast. I hope you're feeling more confident about taking a localised and actionable approach to living sustainably. If this episode has inspired you to take simple action, please follow the ReNewy Living Podcast so you can catch every episode. We'd love it if you could share this episode with your friends. It's a great way to spread the word and help more people join the conversation about living sustainably. You can even send me an email with the episode that really made it for you. Hearing your positive actions for change helps me understand how these stories work within our shared communities. Head over to my website, renewyliving.com.au, for the show notes and blog posts from this episode. I look forward to sharing more stories from the people of Newcastle as we delve into our community's diverse social and environmental practices for positive planetary change from a localised perspective.